Hey, it's Zach from 718 Motor Pool, and today we're going to be talking about the Whelen 80H from the New York State Police. So typically I like to add some in-service footage of light bars I'm talking about, but New York State Police archive footage is almost non-existent. Anyway, moving on. The Whelen 80H was introduced in 1978 as Whelen's second generation fully enclosed light bar. The Whelen 90H was also introduced around this time, and the only difference between these light bars was the rotor style. The 80 had one directional rotors and the 90 had bidirectional rotors. So these light bars were introduced as the halogen version of the 8000, which was Whelan's top of the line strobe bar. The halogen models were marketed as easy to maintain since all of the lights were self-contained with a motor and rotor assembly as a modular component with no gears, chains, or belts. Other companies were still a few years away from doing this, and these bars could also be configured as a mix of strobe and halogen, which was a new concept at the time. The downside to the halogen bars was Whelen was generally a little more expensive than the competitors. This bar, as it was equipped with optional rear flashers, takedowns, and alley lights, was priced around $825 in 1985. Adjusted for inflation, this bar would cost about $2,450 in September of 2024. Meanwhile, similar federal bars started around $620, and adjusted for inflation, the cost would be about $1,850. Towards the end of production, the 80H and 90H were rebranded to the 81H and 91H for unknown reasons, and they had some minor tooling changes. Towards that time, they really weren't huge sellers, and they were discontinued sometime in late 1989 or early 1990 and replaced by the Whelen Advantage. So, this particular light bar came from the New York State Police, and it has dates on the motors from 1988. Starting around 1983, the New York State Police would start phasing in the model 80H-3, which consisted of 3 rotors per side, takedown lights, alley lights, as well as 2 alternating rear flashers. This light bar would be paired with a Unitrol 480K for a controller and a siren. And around 1989, the State Police would start phasing in Street Hawks. Due to the State Police's tendency to reuse old equipment, the last cars to get these were a mixed purchase of 1991 Crown Victorias and Chevy Caprices. These cars went out of service sometime in the early to mid-1990s. For 1992, the State Police standardized the federal signal Street Hawk. Prior to this, it was common to see a lot of variety in the fleet from older bars that were recycled onto newer cars.